Deep Threat Sports Network, we're back at it again. We've been telling you guys we were going to expand some more. We're back with our newest NHL podcast that we are starting today. Right now, you are going to come at us live along with us. We want to welcome in Ron. He's going to be our NHL hockey expert on this show. Along the way, Josh and Marty, who you already know, they're going to tag along with us. I'm going to play host for you guys. And hey, we cannot wait to dive into this NHL segment. This is going to be really good stuff for you guys. We are also going to drop our name for you right now. We are going to be referred to as Crease to Crease, affiliated with Deep
Love it.
Threat Sports Network. I cannot wait for this, guys. But first, let's introduce our newest Deep Threat Sports Network member, Ron. So, Ron, why don't
Hey,
you tell us a little something about us, about yourself here, why you kind of want to do this with us, what makes you a hockey fan, and man, just give it to us right here.
yeah, good to be here, guys. Excited about this segment of Deep Threat Sports Network. Obviously, as you can tell, I'm a Blues fan, St. Louis native, but we had that memorable 2019 Cup winner, and hoping the Blues can turn things around here. But we're going to talk about all hockey here. We're not just going to focus on the Blues. So really excited, Colin, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely, Ron. We're blessed to have your presence here, man. This is awesome. I don't know anybody else better to come talk some hockey with Josh, Marty, and I. And let's not forget, man, you and I went to a playoff game together in that 2019 run. I appreciate you letting me tag along for that. We've been tight forever. So, man, this is just awesome stuff. I'm really excited to get this thing underway. So, real quick, in our first inaugural episode here, we're going to dive into some offseason moves that we all thought were pretty important moves. We're going to do a little early season report. We want to welcome the Utah Hockey Club to the NHL this season with the worst name of all time. Hopefully they get that lined out. We're also going to touch a little bit on some milestones that some players are chasing this season. And then, hey, the best part of this episode, at the end, we're going to drop our predictions for the Hart, Vezina, and Norris trophies. And then we're going to dive into our conference winners and the Stanley Cup champion. So, fellas, let's get after this thing. Let's get deep in it right here. First, let's just go ahead and kick it to Ron. Sorry, Josh, you haven't had much camera time just yet, but Ron, you're the newest member here, man, so we're going to give you the honors. Tell us two of your biggest offseason moves that really caught your attention.
Well, I think you look at a lot of activity this offseason. There's a lot of teams that have no cap space, and there's a lot of teams that there's a few teams out there that have almost actually over $20 million in cap space. So you saw a lot of moving parts this summer. Yeah, it's exciting to see the Utah Hockey Club. I know the fans in Phoenix aren't happy about that, but the Utah team is off to a hot start. But I guess I want to focus on probably what I thought was the most unique move in the offseason, and that was, of course, my St. Louis Blues, where they offered two tender sheets to Dylan Holloway and Broberg right out from the nose of Edmonton, who was in a pretty tight cap situation themselves. Last time that a tender offer sheet was actually accepted, I think, was 2021. And then prior to that, I think it had been 20 years that a team actually pulled off a tender offer sheet that wasn't matched. For the Blues to do it twice, that's pretty impressive. They also went out and got Ryan Suter, a long-tooth veteran who I think they signed him for $775,000, Josh, which is a crazy number in hockey for a 35, 36-year-old veteran. And then, of course, prior to the season starting, they had 12 players under the age of 25. So the Blues are in a really good spot to continue this quick build, I think is what I'd call it. Not a total rebuild like the Blackhawks have done and some of the other teams, but picking up those two guys really gave them some depth at defense with the loss of Crew, really helped them. And I think Holloway has plugged in nicely here early on in the season. And I think the other team that made a pretty nice free agent summer splash was the New Jersey Devils. Obviously, Markstrom was the big fish. They picked up a lot of depth, ton of depth with Pesce and Brendan Dillon and the new kid, Paul Cotter, who's already has 5 goals this season. Thomas Tartar, who's actually been a really good addition. So you put them in with Jack Hughes and their defensive core. They've got a pretty good lineup front to back, and I think they're going to make some noise this year. So those are the two that caught my eye, guys. What about you guys?
Ronnie, I couldn't agree with you more about New Jersey and those moves they made. I really think they're stacking up a really good team for this season. And so far they've shown that. I think they have 27 goals for right now. They're stacking up goals left and right. They're looking good out there. And even they have some Blues alumni on the team. Allen, he's in goal. He's got a shutout this season, playing for the Devils. So I mean, they're really putting together a good team.
Hey, this may not be the last you hear the New Jersey Devils from us this episode. Just going to throw
There's
that out there.
Hey,
yeah, we're
you know what's
excited.
great? You know what's crazy, Josh? I went back and looked up a couple years ago. They went through four goalies in the season. 2 years prior to that, they went through four goalies in the season. You got to remember from 1996 or 98, when Martin Brodeur showed up, he was the man for 14 years. And since then, they haven't had a number one goalie.
No, they had a brick wall for all those years, and then they struggled for seasons after that. And it kind of looks like they're shaping up to have some better goaltending. Uh, I'm like you said, I'm really looking forward to this season with the Devils.
Who else you like,
So
Josh?
who else do I like? I'm a Rangers fan, Blues fan, obviously being from St. Louis. I'm very critical of the Blues, I guess. I have a hard time watching Colton Parayko make as much money as he makes, being 7 foot tall on skates, and then standing there like an orange cone on the ice.
The
Um,
softest guy on the ice, but the biggest at the same time.
he's a very gifted and talented man. I wish he used his gifts and talents in the proper way on the ice. I am critical. Um, you know, Braden Shen's the toughest guy on the ice right now, I think, and he's one
Uh,
of the smallest Blues players. And it kind of just boggles my mind. I guess with our history here in St. Louis, we had Brett Hall, we had Tony Twist, we had these guys that used to push guys around. They didn't take it. And
Ryan Reeves, baby.
Ryan
Ryan
Reeves,
Reeves,
he's still
haymaker.
out there throwing them.
Yeah, he
So
is.
it's it's tough to sit there and watch guys that are making all this money just kind of stand there. You're the biggest guy on the team. Most of the time you're probably one of the biggest guys on the ice. I, 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 I if I was an inch taller, I would probably be 10 times tougher.
Yeah,
So I'm a short fella. So I'm watching a guy like this and I'm like, man, what I would do to have your height, and your dominance in a sport like that. And I just think sometimes he doesn't use it how he should.
yeah. So you liked my recap of Jersey. Who else did you like and what they did this off season? Anybody else jump out at you?
So I'm looking at Boston picking up Lindholm, moving him to the first line. I'm also looking at Swayman taking over. Ulmark went to Ottawa, so I think he's got a lot on his plate. It's Boston. They're tough. They're a good team. You can hate them or you can love them. Uh, it's it's a love-hate relationship for me. You can't deny the talent that's on the team. So seeing him make these moves and Swayman taking over, I don't know if he's going to play as well as Allmark has in the past, but he could prove me wrong. Another team, and these moves, I think a lot of these guys are regretting it right now, are the moves that these guys made to Nashville this season because right now they're 0-5.
Oh yeah.
And
Wow.
I am not a Nashville fan by any means. I actually make it like my daily goal when they lose to tweet out their loss because it makes me feel so good. And a lot of that's based on I spent a lot of time in Nashville, and 70% of the population in Nashville is transplants.
Yeah.
So these people are moving there, and now you're Preds fans. I've met people that live there. I'm from Detroit. You're not a Detroit Red Wings fan? You grew up watching hockey and you switched to the Preds. It doesn't make sense to me. I think they're kind of fair weather fans, and it kind of gets aggravating, especially, in 2018, the Blues lost to them. They eliminated us. I think it was 18. It might have been 17. So I kind of carry that burden around with me. But I think Brady Sky, Stamkos, uh, Jonathan Marshall are really regretting their decision moving there. I know they spent a lot of money to get those guys there, and
Yeah.
I think those guys are really, really kind of regretting moving there.
Well,
Well,
so
it raised my
do we
eye.
think that they're Well, I guess my question is, do we think that they're just struggling to mesh right now, and then they'll kind of find it later on in the season, or do we think that this is just going to be a really bad situation all the way around? Because I guess the way I look at this is when you bring in, big name players like this, and they're trying to settle in. I think there could be a battle almost amongst the team for a little bit about who's kind of taking control, who's going to kind of step in and take this team over. So I feel like this is very fixable. I mean, I don't think an 0-5 start is necessarily going to, forecast the rest of their future on this team.
I think it's got to be hard for the guys that have been there. You've got Forsberg. O'Reilly's been there. I think it's his third season there
Yeah.
now, and he's always been a leader. And you have these guys that have been a part of that team for so long that I understand that, Stamkos and Marshall, they're highly skilled players, but they can't expect to walk into a locker room and start demanding things or thinking they're going to run the team when these guys have been there for how long's Forsberg been there?
Oh gosh, probably 8, 9 years. I think he's
Yeah,
been there almost his whole career.
yeah,
He's a
and
sniper though, right?
yeah,
He's a sniper.
Well, this is tough for Stamkos too, right? Because he's been a part of such a fluid winning culture. This is a totally new approach for him too. I mean, I'm sure there was a point in time where he probably thought he was going to be on the Tampa Bay Lightning for life. So I mean, I
Well,
think that
no
this is
doubt.
probably tough for him.
Well, look
mhm.
at the cups that came with these guys. Stamkos has two. Marshall has one in Vegas from a few years back. O'Reilly had one 5 years ago. They got a great goalie. UC Soros is, he's taken over as the man there. It's his
One of the
job. He
best
needs
in
to
the
lead
business,
everyone.
man.
He's awesome. So I think, Colin, to your point, yeah, it's early, guys, and everybody in Nashville settle down. We're not hating on you. It's just going to take a little time to build some chemistry. They got a ton of talent on that team. Hell, they got a Norris Trophy winner in Yossi, one of the best
Mhm.
defensemen in the league. So they're a good team. I think they just need a little time to gel, right?
Well, so how many Stanley Cups did Stamkos play in? Because he won three though, right? Or was it only two? I thought he won
They
three.
they went 3 years in a row. He won back to back.
Okay,
Is
okay,
that right?
okay.
I think he's been in five though, hasn't he? I could be
Let's
wrong.
look. Let's look real quick. Let me just pull this up because let's make sure
See,
we
I
get
don't
this
think
right. Because
Tampa.
I think he's played in a ton. I
So
thought.
Tampa won the year after the Blues went. They
Yeah,
went 3 years in a row, and
they
I
were the
know that
COVID
because
COVID Cup holders.
yeah, they beat Dallas in 20. They won in 21. They lost in 22 to Vegas. No, Colorado. Sorry, they lost to Colorado, and then Vegas won it the next year. Um,
So he's won two, played in four.
that's right.
Oh, it played in four.
That
One,
sounds
two.
right. Yep.
Played in 2015, lost. Played in 2022, lost. 121 and 120.
Yeah, they didn't really have an identity, I don't think, in the past. Everything revolved around their goalie, and Yossi was there and Forsberg was there. And then it seemed to be they just had a bunch of role players that didn't have the experience. You look at that team now, to your point, Josh, I think this is an excellent point on your part because they've added some pretty good players in Stamkos, Marshall,
Oh,
and Smith.
dude, they've
It's
added
huge.
household names. They've added household names. I mean, this is huge. Think of the jersey sales just between those two guys coming in.
Yeah, I think it's just going to take some time, right? It's just
Well, and
it's
you
early.
pair him with a guy that's seasoned like Ryan O'Reilly, and we all talked. We're all Blues fans. We've all had this same conversation, whether it was just Josh and I, or Ronnie, you and me. I mean, we all talked about how it did look like O'Reilly's kind of lost a step, but let's not forget. I mean, he might have lost a step, but man, he never lost one of the abilities that I thought made him one of the best players in the league, and I just felt like he was just a natural gifted leader, and I whether he loses a step or not, he's not losing that ability. And I think you have a guy like him. I really think a team can rally around
Yeah,
him. I think he
yeah, no
knows how to
doubt.
get him going in the right direction.
Hey, he's a leader. He does the intangibles. He checks, he forechecks, he wins faceoffs, and guys follow that because he's a grinder,
Yes.
right? He's not a goal
Mhm.
scorer, but he's a leader, and he proved that in 2019 when he was here in St. Louis. So yeah, I agree with that 100%.
He's definitely not a goal scorer, but he's definitely, used to be one of the best in the business at creating goals for, I mean,
Yeah.
to your point, the guy really did it all. And I hate to see him on Nashville, but hey, best endeavors to him. I'm going to talk about a couple teams here. I do want to acknowledge the fact that, the Seattle Kraken, I'm not going to dive into them too much, but they added, Brandon Montour and Chandler Stevenson. Those are two guys that really could kind of anchor Seattle Kraken a little bit. They're kind of missing some players like that, and those two guys are some hard-nosed players that can get in there. Chandler Stevenson can create some goals. Brandon Montour can really kind of man the back end a little bit. So, I mean, two really good ads for them. And you kind of see Seattle Kraken trending in the right direction. What they're doing, that's good for them, and they can prove to be a tough contender down the road. Probably, maybe not just yet, but I do think in seasons to come they will be a force to be reckoned with. And they had a really good startup. That was really impressive on their inaugural season. What they did, I thought. I mean, they're trending in the right direction. But I really want to dive into the Tampa Bay Lightning adding Jake Gunsel. You pair Jake Gunsel with Braden Point and Nikita Kucherov, replacing a guy like Steven Stamkos going out. I see Toffus chuckling there a little bit. It's probably because me and him watched a hockey game years ago when Gunsel was on the Pens, and we watched Jake Gunsel maybe take the hardest hit we've ever seen in hockey, and we didn't think the little guy would get up. But, man, he's a hard-nosed hockey player, man.
But from that day forward, you've been on his jock ever since, and that guy has turned
Hey.
out to be a stud.
Hey, man, we
Stud.
saw it at your house that night. We knew that
Yeah.
this guy had special talent, and like you said, I've been on him from day one. I've also been on Braden Point from day one. If you remember that, I was
Yes,
all
you
over
have.
these two guys, and
Yep.
I think you pair those three, they could really be a force to be reckoned with. Obviously, Josh just talked about Stamkos going to Nashville. That is a huge loss, and I'm sure the Tampa Bay fans hated losing a guy like Stamkos. I mean, hell, who wouldn't? But one thing about Stamkos too is he seemed to be banged up quite a bit here and there, and maybe we watched Jake the Snake Gunsel take a hit and pop right back up. So I mean, he may not miss as much time as him. But another move, real quick, I want to talk about for me is Vegas Golden Knights adding Ilya Samsonov at the goaltender position. You know, I think if I remember correctly, Vegas kind of shuffled through 4 goaltenders last year. I think you pair Samsonov with Aiden Hill. I think maybe those two guys could become kind of a more reliable option in net for them. Samsonov has had his ups and downs. Don't get me wrong. There are games where, you know, the 5 holes open, the guy, I mean, there's games where he looks like he's seeing ghosts out there, and there's games where he comes out and stones opponents and looks like the best goalie in the league. So I think maybe you pair him on a good team with Aiden Hill. Maybe it takes some pressure off of him, and you kind of see him coming to his own a little bit more here this season with the Vegas Golden Knights.
Hey, Colin, let's not forget Aiden Hill's the Stanley Cup winner. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
who would have thought that? Like Aiden Hill, like Logan Thompson had all those health issues back in 23 and kind of got disgruntled with the organization. You know, they either traded him or he signed with Washington. I don't recall how he got there, but, Aiden Hill's been there. Samsonov has been kind of second fiddle to a lot of goalies in the league. He's kind of bounced around, but don't sleep on Aiden Hill, right?
Absolutely. And to your point, Samsonov, I think, had like a .89 GAA or sorry, save percentage last season, and that's not impressive at all. So I mean, I just wanted to acknowledge that because I think you pair those two, and I think that's a really good pairing at your goaltender position down the stretch.
Agreed.
That's kind of why I'm leaning that direction, because if you can have two goalies that are reliable, I'm not saying he's going to go out there and win the Vezina every single season, because he's not. But I mean, you pair those two guys, I think that really is beneficial for teams, because you see some of these teams put their second goalie in when their top guy needs a night off, and good Lord, man, it's not good. So this could be good for them down the stretch.
Yeah.
Do you guys have anything else you guys want to add? Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Ron.
No, I was going to say, and Vegas has a pretty solid defensive core as well, to help him and help build around that goalie. I mean, we've always said, Colin, you and I, and Josh, you may be the same way. If you don't have a goalie, a horse to ride through the Stanley Cup tournament, you're not going to get past many rounds. You got to have a hot goalie, and you got to have a solid depth from front to back, right? So, looking at a guy like Aiden Hill and what he did, and it's just going to be really interesting to see how Vegas does this year. And look at Mark Stone, by the way, while we're on Vegas. I mean, does the guy ever quit?
No.
I mean,
He's an
tearing
absolute
up
stud.
right now.
He's a stud.
I mean, he's a guy with if you're let's say it's playoffs, okay, and let's say the Blues are playing Vegas. He's a guy that will piss you off if you're the opposing team's fan. I mean, from game 1 to game 7 or however long you make it against the Golden Knights, he is a guy that will piss you off from start to finish.
He doesn't quit, man. I love the way he plays, man. And I didn't, he had some injuries coming into the season, and he's obviously healthy now because he's tearing it
But
up.
your point you were just talking about with the playoffs and talking about how you need a horse to ride in net down the stretch. That's honestly why I wanted to mention him and going with this because let's say Aiden Hill goes out, gets blown up, and he allows 5. Well, you can go to Samsonov, float him back in, and trust that you have a guy that can actually go out there and get you a win
Absolutely.
rather than just flipping your cap and being like, okay, well, our top guy's not getting it done tonight, so let's just see what the hell this guy can bring. You know what you're probably going to get with Samsonov. You're going to get reliability. I mean, yes, I think this could be a huge move for them down the stretch.
And
Yeah.
you also have to kind of look at Barbashev playing for Vegas now. I mean, he's having an outstanding year so far. He's a former Blue, and he's done nothing but get better since he's left the Blues. What does he have right now? I've got some stats pulled up.
Yeah,
I think
he's on that line with Eichel and Stone, and he's even got some
four
power play time.
goals, four
Yeah,
goals, 4 assists. I mean, how many games? I think they've got 6 games played. I mean, that's really impressive. I like seeing that out of him. I like seeing these former Blues players go on and you see him still achieve and move forward. And he's working on the first line now. So
Colin, what do we call him, Colin? Do you remember?
Oh, Barbie, dude. We're huge Barbie fans
Barbie.
here, dude. I love Barbashev, man. He was a
Remember
guy
when he
that was
first?
so overshadowed on the Blues. I mean, it's just so overshadowed.
Well, and he didn't have the scoring talent to what Josh just said, but back when he came in the league, he was remember we called him the human missile. The guy would hit everything.
Mhm.
Dude, he was, man. He was hard nosed. He was a guy that when you would watch the Blues play hockey, you could always count on him to not take a night off. I feel we've talked about this many a times. Both of us or all three of us have amongst each other. There are so many Blues players, and not just to harp on the Blues. I mean, every team has this, but there are so many Blues players that you watch play that just take nights off. I mean, he was a guy that you could count on every single night, and you put him with a guy like Mark Stone, who also is out there giving it 110%, like you just said. Dude,
Yep.
that's a great
He
combination.
he has a lot of defensive awareness out on the ice too.
Yes.
You see him with his back skate and all that, and he's pushing back to play defense, and he covers the ice very well. Like you said, he's like a missile.
I mean, they'd be down 4-0, and he's just out there crushing dudes while
Mhm.
everyone else is just trying to get off the ice. Let's get this game out. Let's get on the bus and go home. Right? He wouldn't. He would. He played 60 minutes every night, no matter what the score was. You get a guy like
that,
that on
that
Vegas, and that he's gonna create some momentum for them. And yeah, I mean, I think Vegas is going to be there again, just like they were a couple years ago.
Kyrou. I don't want to throw names out there like that. It takes nights off, but Kyrou.
He's turned it around so far this season. I've seen more out of him this season
Wish
than
he'd
last
shoot
season.
more.
So
He needs to shoot the puck more.
yeah,
The guy's got a great
Yeah.
shot, right?
He needs to be
yeah,
putting pucks on net constantly for that Blue
Somebody
team.
needs to set him
Absolutely.
up in the slot and just let him hammer him, right?
yep.
Okay, so while we're kind of talking about some of this stuff, let's transition a little bit into the early season report. We're 2 weeks in. We kind of got some games going on tonight a little bit. We just saw Winnipeg go 5-0. You know what? Josh, I'm going to kick it to you first this time. Give me a couple teams right now that are surprising you, good, bad, or otherwise. I mean, just throw a couple teams at me that have really blown your mind here a little bit.
So far, obviously, the Winnipeg Jets just dominating. They beat
Like
the
that.
Pens today. It was 6-3. Another team, the Pens, I watched their first game of the season. I was watching it pretty close, and I was like, man, they are starting to show some age. I think they have the oldest roster in the league right now.
They're
And
like the fourth oldest roster. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I was a little worried because you don't want to see, these guys are legends on that team, and I worry about those guys, not going out on a high note or just having to suffer their last couple seasons out. The team's not producing, but they've quickly turned it around. They're playing well, except for today against the Jets. But I think right now with the Winnipeg Jets, that's almost to be expected when you play them. The New Jersey Devils, you're going to hear a lot of that out of me. They've impressed so far this season. Few teams I'm really surprised to see struggling. Colorado. What is
Yeah.
going on? Is it the altitude? What's going on? I don't
Goaltending, man. Goaltending.
The goaltending's terrible. I
It
don't
is.
really, personal preference, being from St. Louis, I don't really root for Colorado. I love the state. I love going there. But the Avs and Kroenke can kind of kiss my ass, for lack of a better
Nice.
word.
That's nicely putting it too.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're
nicely
being
putting it.
generous. You're being soft.
I am. I'm not gonna just spew hatred on teams that I don't like,
Hey,
because
I know Josh,
I
and that
like the
was his face
players
of like,
as a franchise. I don't really care for them. Obviously, we've met them in the first round of the playoffs. I don't know how many times. So it is surprising to me with the team they had last year to see them start off the season this low. You know, they got a win. I think it was last night they finally got a win, or the night
yeah,
before.
yep. Well, I mean, talking about their 1-4, they have a -11 goal differential with arguably the best skater in hockey in Nathan McKinnon. I mean, obviously,
Mhm.
we're not going to. I mean, it's McDavid, McKinnon. I mean, you can go on for days about that topic,
Yeah.
but my point being here is Georgiev and Justice Noonan being their goaltenders, they're both nearing a 5.0 GAA. That is not a recipe for success. And if I said a Noonan wrong, my bad. I mean, this show in hockey is going to be the hardest sport to announce all the names. But I mean, these
I
two guys
struggle.
are just not it right now, right? I mean,
Well,
you can't expect good things, long-term success with those two being your net keepers.
hey, Colin, we just talked about it. Having a hot goalie to get you through the season, the grind of a season, and a playoff run, or you better have two decent goalies or really good goalies that you can tandem between. Right now, they're paying him $3.4 million, and he's a sieve. Georgiev's a sieve.
Yes, leaking like I said, and then to our point, and circling back, talking about the Samsonov move being a good, reliable option right there with Aiden Hill. Okay, so now we're going to kick it to Justice and Noonan. I mean, he's got like a 4.69 GAA himself. I mean, you don't put him back out there with confidence at all, right? I mean, Jesus, this when you have this talented of an offensive roster, and I don't know their cap space off the top of my head. Ron,
Uh,
you're usually dead on with stuff like that, so I mean,
they're in cap hell right now.
okay, so this is exactly why then. This is why those guys are their goaltenders and why these are their best options.
In fact, they're right at 88 million, which is the cap. They're just under that.
They're spent. Yep.
And so getting relief from somewhere is probably not going to happen because you budgeted 3.4 for Georgiev and then whatever the other guy's making, but they don't have any cap space. Let's see. I'm going to find the Avs. I'm going to tell you what their cap is, right? They're at $0 in cap space. They are maxed. So,
Sounds
you're
like
paying
me.
McKinnon 12 and a half, Rand 9.2, McCarr 9 million. I mean, they're stuck in, and you got to remember, Nikushin's supposed to come back this year at some point if he can get
Yeah,
his
that's
personal
trouble.
life figured out. Pretty damn good
Well,
player.
whew.
And they're talking about Landeskog eventually coming back to the lineup at 34 years old after being out for 2 years with an injury. So that'll be a
What's
nice
crazy
bump.
though, man? What's crazy though, man, is every player you just announced would damn near go be a centerpiece somewhere else, though.
Yeah.
That is why they're in cap hell because you have to. Cale Makar, in my opinion, is all through and through the best defenseman in hockey. I mean,
Yes.
this is another guy that I've been high on, like the Braden Point and the Jack Eichel or Jake Gunsel thing. I mean, this is just a guy that, good Lord, man, you could build a team around. You could build a team around McKinnon. You could build a team around Landeskog. You could build a team around Ranton. I mean, we could go on. The options are there.
How do you
Yeah.
guys? How,
Let's also not forget. I feel like their defensemen are really good. Like after Cale Makar.
Yeah.
yeah,
Devin Tays is good.
yeah, they can't.
He's stepped up. Sam Girard's been really good for them as well. Another young guy. Josh
They can't
Manson.
stop every shot though. You know, they
You're
can't.
right. You're
You know, when
right. I
your
mean, they could.
goaltending's not there.
That's right. It's frustrating for a defenseman when a soft goal goes in, and it's kind of a letdown to the team. Josh Manson, Dave Manson's son from the old Blackhawks back in the '90s, who was an animal. He's played well. He came over from Anaheim a couple years ago, I think, the
Yep.
year they won the cup. So they've got a good defensive core, but I don't know how they're going to fit Landeskog and Nichushkin in their salary cap. Do they try to move somebody? You can't move Georgiev. He's not worth anything.
Well, if Georgia's got a 5.0 GAA, just don't put a goalie in there. Piss on it.
I mean, right?
No goalies, roll them out, baby. I mean, hey, have 5 lines on offense. Because I mean, they just regardless, seriously, like I mean, and all jokes aside, they are gonna have to outscore opponents. So I mean, that's the only way they win games down the stretch
Yep.
is they have to outscore opponents.
Yep. I 100% agree with you. You know, Colin, you look at early season, you know, you got Edmonton, you know, what they did in the spring was incredible. In the summer, being down 3-0, I really thought and was hoping that McDavid and Draisaitl and the rest of those guys could finally get the cup. You know, Florida was there the year before. They came back and they were gonna buzzsaw everybody. And then Evans had said, "Yeah, not so fast. We're gonna make this a series." And maybe there's a little bit of a hangover from that this year because they're off to just a horrendous start, right? Uh,
That's got to
I,
be that hangover, right? I mean, that's
I,
well, they played so many games, right? And it was exhausting for them. It had to be. But
I, I gotta ask you though, do you think Connor McDavid's kind of looking in the mirror right now, wondering if he's gonna throw his career away here? Not throw it away. He's always going to be a tremendous player, but do you think he's kind of looking in the mirror, asking himself that question? They just showed us the inside the locker room when they lost last year,
yeah.
and that came out a couple weeks before the season started and stuff. And I've seen a
Dude,
few memes going
didn't
around,
jerk
but
if that didn't jerk your tear ducts, man, I don't know what would because that was some hard shit to watch. I thought.
he, I think he has to be looking in the mirror and kind of saying, this team and this franchise might not be able to do it for me.
well,
We all know he's champion caliber.
and he's a pro, right?
Mhm.
He's a pro. I
I,
mean, they're not getting any younger though. Edmonton is the oldest team in the league, guys. They're over 30 years average age, and you know, I think Draisaitl just you got his big contract, but they're just an old team, and the window is probably not that much longer for McDavid. So it's a great question, Josh. I don't think he thinks of that. I think pundits like us probably can talk about it. I don't think that ever crosses his mind, but you know, at some point, the organization has to say, we've got to figure this out because they're the oldest team in the league. And
Mhm.
they've been
well,
there for the last 2 years.
and you're to your point, Josh and Ron both. I mean, you're arguably letting the one of a top player in hockey history, the way this is going to go down for him,
Yep.
in my opinion, just sit there and kind of rot. I mean, I say that they just had their chance and they came up short, right? But I mean, at some point, yeah, I think I lean with Josh on this. Honestly, I think he's sitting there. Obviously, it's not going to be vocal. Obviously, he's not going to tell it to his locker room, probably. But I think him and Draisaitl both probably had those internal monologues where they're like, "Jesus, man, like." If I was anywhere else, right, you strap me on any other team right now with a goaltender that's competent and a defense that's competent, and you can get me the puck. I mean, I think he knows that he goes anywhere else, he could probably march a team to the championship.
Do you think he'll
Yeah.
do it? You think he'll do a tour like Gretzky did, where after he left the Oilers, he kind of bounced around with the Kings, came to St. Louis. You think he does that kind of just
I
to
don't.
maybe get another taste?
No, I don't think they're going to let him leave. I think he's going to name his price. They're going to keep him there just like they did with Crosby, just like they did with Ovechkin. These guys are in their 37, 39 years old, and they signed their last contract with their respective teams. I think the Oilers would be crazy to let him go, but I want him to win a cup because, as Colin said, he is going to go down as one of the top 5 players in the history of the game, right? But
My rebuttal to this, though, real quick, before we move on from that right there, because this touches right here. My rebuttal to this is Crosby felt probably more obligated to stay because he had a lot more success as a franchise there
yeah,
in his tenure. Ovechkin more success with Washington right now than what McDavid has in Edmonton. So do you think he still feels that sense of like that emotional attachment? Because I mean, there seems to be a lot of hype. And hey, I'm going to spoil it right now. I'm going to go against all this, and I have them in my Western Finals. I'm not going to tell you who I haven't playing just yet, but I think they rally up. I think they strap up, and I think they kind of trend this thing in the right direction down the stretch. I think right now they're just a little hungover from everything that happened at the end of
yeah,
last season. But do you
100%.
really think he feels, that attachment to stay in Edmonton long term like Crosby and Ovechkin and all those guys did?
I don't know, man. Hockey players are creatures of habit, right? And they're very superstitious, right? And they do very regimented things, right? I just it would be odd for me to see him wear another uniform like the Gretzky did when he came from LA to St. Louis to the Rangers. And there's many other players who have gone on to another team after a 15-year career. I don't think you see it as much now. I think next year the cap goes to 92 million. The year after that it goes to 96.5 million. They're going to have the money. Right now they don't. They're in a pretty tight cap space, which is why they couldn't sign Holloway and Broberg, like I said earlier. But they went out and signed Victor Arvidsson, journeyman. Jeff Skinner played most of his career in Buffalo. I think McDavid's looking like, who are these two guys? I can't score goals with these guys, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know what he's thinking, but you know, it'll be interesting to see how his contract negotiation plays out.
Uh, I don't. Okay, I'm gonna save everything I want to talk about with this roster for later because I do talk about. I just spoiled it how they're going to be in my Western Finals. You look at this roster, man, top to bottom. They are shithouse loaded. I mean,
Yeah,
they're just another team. There's another team like Colorado's just going to have to outscore. And whenever they find their stride and they start meshing again and they get over all the bullshit, I mean, I think they're there. I do, and I don't know, man. Maybe you see a guy like I know I don't. Did he just signed a contract, right? Drysdale did, right?
yeah.
I mean, and so he's not going to go anywhere probably. But I was going to say, maybe if he up and leaves somehow, I mean, could you ever see McDavid, demanding a trade? I mean, is that a thing for him? You think? I mean, I'm serious, man. I could see it if they come up short again. This guy is in his absolute prime, and he's got a lot
It
of
is.
hockey left in him.
Hey, Leon's getting 14 million a year. McDavid's going to get more than that.
Oh, without a doubt, McDavid will be the highest paid player in hockey,
And
and I don't think
Leon
it should be
signed
even a discussion.
he signed an 8-year deal for 14 AAV. It's like I know the cap's going to go up, like I said before, but they're one of the oldest teams, if not the oldest team in the league. The window is going to close, and what McDavid decides to do is going to be real interesting when that day comes, right?
I don't know whether that cap goes up or not. I don't know if they can afford both of those guys and piece a roster together around him at
You
all.
know, he's got 2 years left on 12.5 million a year right now. So not next season, but the season after 26, 27, he's a UFA. And I think he will set the all-time record for the highest contract in hockey because
Without
he is the
without
best.
a doubt.
So what does that number mean? 16 and a half? Like, think about that. And the cap then will be 96.5 million. So you got
I think it'll be
him.
north of 16 and a half because of that cap going up. I
Yeah,
really
and
do.
between the two of them, let's say that second year, 2 years from now, it's 96.5 million, and you got those two, Leon and Connor, signed north of $30 million. That's a 30-year cap almost for two players.
And it's tough. It's tough hockey. This hockey is one of the hardest. It's not one of. I think it is the hardest sport to build a roster in because of the cap being like that, and because of these really good players like Drysdale, McDavid, McKinnon. The list goes on, demanding such a high pay, and rightfully so. Man, they bring talent to the teams that not just any player in free agency can go get. And I also, and my take on this is, I don't think you see McDavid sign an extension mid-season. I think he exercises free agency, and I rightfully so.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, man. It's going to be the wild,
Man,
wild west, right?
absolutely. But I mean, enough of the Edmonton talk. We'll probably circle back to that a little bit towards
Hey,
the end.
Kyle, how about the Rangers talk real quick? Because I know you and I have
Yeah,
talked about them. We're both high on them. This is kind of a segue from what we were just talking about, but Igor Shesterkin, he's your guy, right? He
best
turned,
in the biz, I think it.
he turned out 88 million.
Yes, he did, and then goes and gets lit up by Utah the next night, I think.
Yeah, he gave
Yeah.
up 6 goals. He's only done that 4 times in his career. He's given up 6 goals, and he did
Yep.
it after he told him no thanks on an $88 million contract.
Well,
Like,
right after that though, he gets blown up by Utah, but he circles back and I mean just stonewalls teams since then too. So hey man, you show me a player that gambles on himself. I have mad respect for shit like that, dude. I mean, go
yeah,
out there and prove it. Go out there and prove that you deserve more. I have mad respect for that. I think the
Josh,
Rangers are legit.
yeah, hey, I'll be talking about them here later in the show. Josh, what do you think about that contract? $88 million. Would you have taken that?
Absolutely.
That's what I said. Crazy, isn't it?
But you have to
He
appreciate it, though, right?
Respect, respect.
it's
He's the best goalie in
he's
the league,
yeah,
hands down.
he's the best goalie in the league. So he's exercising, trying to
He
get some
wants
more money out of him.
he wants to get paid as the best goalie in the league, and he should. He is the best goalie in the league for sure.
So another team, let's talk about real quick while we're kind of talking about some of these teams. We got to give. Sorry, we're gonna talk about two more because I want to acknowledge the Utah Hockey Club a little bit. We haven't gave them enough conversation just yet because they are a new team into the league, and I don't think any of us saw Utah Hockey Club starting out 4-2. I did not see that happening at all. I think their best player, and correct me if I'm wrong if I'm forgetting somebody, they're headlined kind of by Clayton Keller, who, don't get me wrong, is a stud, but that can't be the best player on your roster and have success through a whole season. I don't feel like. I mean, I don't want to downgrade him. He is a stud. I would love for him to be a St. Louis Blue. I mean, but you piece him on a team with the Blues where there's more around it. That helps. I don't think Utah is sustainable throughout the season. They are a +2 goal differential right now, and that is not a recipe for success either. I don't
Yep.
think they continue to outscore teams. I think you kind of see them peter out and come back and crash and burn down to reality just a little bit here down the stretch. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but that's just kind of my take on them. I've watched a couple games so far. Not real impressive, but I will say, they have a much smoother flow than I expected them to have right away.
I think they're riding the excitement, right?
Yes.
We've seen new franchises, whether it's through expansion, like look at Vegas in 2018, they made it to the finals, right? I think they just riding that emotion, and Clayton Keller, first captain in the franchise history, St. Louis kid. He's a good player. Actually, he's a really good player, I think, but they just don't have a whole lot of talent. Like you look down their roster, they went out and got Sergachev, good addition on defense. Nick Schmaltz has stepped up and starting to put some numbers up here the last year or two, but they just don't have the superstar, right? To your point, Colin. Like they don't have the brand name guy yet, but they've had a ton of early high draft picks back in Phoenix over the years, and they got a lot of talent in there. But Connor Ingham's, I think, going to be a really good goalie, but they just don't have that stud, right? The guy that can go out and lead them every night, and like a Ryan O'Reilly and a Stamkos, some of the guys we talked about, they don't have that guy that can do that. I hope they do. I think it's exciting. I think they're just riding a little bit of a wave right now, and good for them, right?
Yeah,
Haven't
and
seen.
I'm rooting for him. I really am.
Sure.
I like to see it.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of Seattle. I'm a fan of Vegas. I like seeing these new teams come in the league and prosper and stuff like that. I think come January, February, I think it's going to be a little bit of a different story. I agree with you guys. I think when we
Yeah,
get into that lull of mid-season hockey, where it's kind of these guys are having to grind day in, day out, and really have to deal with the schedule and stuff like that, I think we might see it kind of teeter off a little bit.
And I
But I
just
could be
don't feel like
wrong.
outside. I don't think you're gonna be. I think outside of Clayton Keller, you look down this roster and like I said, I may be forgetting somebody because I'm not as familiar with their roster just yet, but I don't think you see many other top six, skaters. I don't think you see. Obviously, they have top six skaters, but I don't think you see true top six skaters really on that team outside of Clayton Keller, and that's what's going to make it tough to beat. Clayton Keller. I don't want to put this on him, but let's say he goes down with an injury for a couple weeks, and I mean, good lord, I mean, what do they do then? I mean, it's not great. I don't think their goaltending's great down the stretch. I mean, this is a lot of question marks, but yeah, man, let's tip the cap where it's due right now. They're 4-2. Good for
yeah,
them. The fans are buzzing around there.
yeah.
They're trying to think of names to come up with. We talked about this a little bit earlier. I guess it's looking like they might become the Utah Yetis at some point. The three of us feel like that flows kind of like it.
I like it.
You know,
I like it.
I'm with it.
hey man, this is good for Utah. Good for Utah. Get them some excitement. Get them another pro team in there. Good for them. And I hope it works out for them. But another team I want to talk about real quick before we keep turning up too much time on some of these other teams, the Dallas Stars, man. The Dallas Stars are for real. The Dallas Stars are 5-1. Won their first 4 games. Take a loss, bounce right back, get a win. This is a star-studded lineup, pun intended, actually. From
Yeah.
top to bottom, they are a very, very good hockey team. Jake Ottinger, you could argue, one of the best in the business, too, at the goaltending position, right? I mean, the list goes on,
Yes.
dude. Marchment, Duchesne, Jason Robertson, Johnson, young guy, Sagan, Jamie Benn. I mean, good. I mean, the list, Rupe Hintz, the list is continuous. They bring in a guy that's, just a backline guy for them, and Evgeny Dadonov over from Vegas. I mean, there's just guys that on this team that can fill it out top to bottom. Miro Heiskanen, too. I mean, we almost named their whole starting lineup right here. That's how good they are.
Couldn't agree with you more, Colin.
It's tough being in the same conference as them as a Blues
Oh,
fan. It really
strap up.
is.
Strap up, boys, because it's gonna be tough to play them anytime you match up. They're a team that, I like I said, I hate kind of putting this on guys and talking about injuries, but you have to a little bit. They're a team that could afford an injury or two and still rally around and still make a push and still have those guys come back in the playoffs, whatever, and rally right back. I mean, they're just as good as it gets, man.
Yeah, I agree.
There's a reason my fantasy hockey team has almost like the whole entire Dallas roster on it. I mean, and Ron and I coined my new name as Slippery Pete last night for Pete DeBoer leading that team. I mean, they're legit, fellas.
Underrated coach, by the way. The guy has been
Yes.
successful. He's had some tough teams and some rebuilds, but he has done a fantastic job with that team the last 3 years. Actually, you go back to 2020, they were in the Cup Finals, right? We talked about that at the very beginning.
Yes.
He's done a great job. Now, Jim Montgomery was there. He came to St. Louis and he moved on to Boston thereafter, but he's done an excellent job with that team. A lot of experience, a lot of older veterans, and a lot of youth.
Not to take anything away from what Pete DeBoer has done and can do there, but I mean, I think you put any of us three as the coach of Dallas Stars, and we would find success too.
Put Slippery Pete in, huh?
Put Slippery Pete, tag me in, coach. I'll lead this team, baby. But so real quick too, we're going to talk about some player milestones. This is going to be Ron's kind of featured segment on our show throughout the season. We're going to let him give updates on the milestones as they're playing out through the season, but we're going to have him introduce the milestones that he wants to talk about moving forward for the remainder of the 2024-2025 NHL season. So Ron, why don't you dive into that for us a little bit here, buddy?
Well, one of them's already happened. I know we had a little delay getting this new Deep Threat podcast on the NHL up and running because of travel schedules and other commitments. But Crosby hit his 600th goal. We knew that was going to happen. Absolute legend, right? Still has probably this year and one more after to play. So maybe he gets to 650, which will put him in elite company. Malkin just had registered his 1600th point, which is mind blowing. I think Yager is probably just over 1800 in his years. Of course, Gretzky's at 2800 and something, but
that's different.
Yeah, it's a whole nother stratosphere. But I think Josh mentioned it earlier when he talked about Pittsburgh. Like Malkin doing what he's doing at the age of 37, he looks like he's 27 years old out there right now.
It's impressive. It's almost like he's carrying the team for a little bit right now. It's really impressive.
Yeah.
Well, and I don't want to put bad juju on something here, but Ron, I remember you and I talking. I'm pretty sure it was Malkin. He was a free agent a year or two ago. His kind of mentioned around in the Blues market just a little bit, and you and I were both kind of like, man, he's old. He's old. We would take him right now. Let's just go ahead and throw that out there.
He looked pretty good on that second line in St. Louis, wouldn't he? But on any team for that matter, because I don't know how he's doing it. It's impressive, but he just clipped 16. He's going to clip 1,600 points. Or he just clipped 1,600 points, and it's amazing what he's doing. McDavid is going to hit 1,000, I would think, this year. He's only a couple as of last week. He was like 18 points away. Again, we talked about their slow start, but he's going to get his 120, 130 points. He will clip 1,000 points, which will be I think the second fastest to do it aside from the great one. And you guys have any idea what do you think his career point per game is right now for McJesus?
Dude, it's got to be like, I'm just going to throw a dart here, but it's got to be like 2.5.
Nah, not that high. What do you think, Josh?
Not that high. I'm gonna go 1.5.
1.52. Good guess. Like he's
I
tearing
mean,
it
I,
up, right?
I just don't. I'm saying 2.5 because I don't feel like the guy is still so young, and the fact that we're talking about him having 1,000 points already, I was just like, I mean, this is unbelievable.
Well, he's going to hit 150 points this season. Or did he do that 2 years ago? It was close. Did he clip that? I don't think he did, but he was going to be close. That's like 1.8 points a game. Like Gretzky was doing 2 points a game plus for, I don't know, a decade, maybe off and on throughout that decade stretch, which is superhuman. But McDavid is, I mean, he's gonna hit 1,000 points probably here in the next couple weeks, and that'll be a milestone that we can talk about. But kudos to him. Brad Marchand's close to getting to 1,000. He's probably about 70 away right now.
The rat.
McKinnon needs 101, so he'll probably hit 1,000 points this year as well. That'd be a little
Hey, how
further
many
in the
more
season.
seasons has Marchand been around than McDavid?
Oh, Brad Marchand, he's been in the league since probably '08. Let me see if I can find it
Okay.
here.
So I'm just trying to put that in perspective for those out there that are listening and haven't really realized what McDavid is doing. That, I mean, that's why it's so remarkable to me, and I guess why I felt like it was just so much higher because Brad Marchand's been around for quite a bit longer than Connor
He's
McDavid.
in his Marchand's in his 14th season. I think McDavid's in 8. He came in 16, so this is 8 or maybe his 9th season now. So he's got 5 years
Unreal,
on him, and he's
unreal.
already ahead of him.
And Marchand's played on a much, much better hockey team than Connor McDavid has for the length of his career.
Oh, there's no
That's
doubt.
that's something to think about. I mean, Marchand's paired with other guys that are incredible. Now I know McDavid's had Draisaitl, but outside of Draisaitl and until Zach Hyman came into his own,
Yes.
I mean McDavid was really doing this with far less talent than what Brad Marchand has done.
Yep. Totally agree. Totally agree. He has Bergeron. He has Pastrnak. He was Marchand was winning cups when McDavid was in high school, right? So
Yes,
he
yes.
won it in 9, I think 2009 or 2010 when Boston won. I think it was '09. So what McDavid is doing for him to get to 1,000 points that quickly is incredible. So Marchand, McKinnon will be there. There's a couple goalie. There's I think Marc-Andre Fleury is the leading wins, active wins category for goalie wins. And you're going to
He's at
have
561 or
562,
562.
I think it was what it was right in there. Is that right?
It's
Um,
it's 561 or 562.
yeah. Bobrovsky, Stanley Cup champion from the spring. He'll get to 400 goals. He's real close. And Jonathan Quick, he's close. I mean, the guy's been around forever. He's probably came in the league same time, maybe a couple years sooner than Marchand. He won a couple cups in LA, but I just don't see him getting a lot of ice time when you're talking about the guy that runs the show up there in New York, right?
Is Flurry starting this year? Is Marc-Andre Fleury the starter this year?
Oh no, Gustafson, Goose, or
Yeah.
Gus. Gus is absolutely carrying Minnesota right now.
Okay.
Yeah,
We talked
Fleury.
about this
I
last
saw
night,
him
actually,
riding. I
Ron.
saw him riding Pine the other day. I wasn't sure,
Yeah,
so he might not
This
get
is
a bunch of
Gus's
ice
team.
time.
this is
No,
Gus's team,
the
100%.
way Gus looks right now, Fleury will see maybe at best a game a week.
He'll get the back end of a road game, back-to-back nights. You'll see Marc-Andre the Flower come in, but it is Gus's team. So, and Fleury's a Hall of Famer. It's obviously I don't need to say that, but Gus has made his impact for the Wild, and I've got some friends in Minneapolis that I've been talking to, and there's a buzz up there for him right now. But goalies lead the way. I think we've all said that. One other milestone that I think just happened or will happen. I talked about Ryan Suter. He just clipped his 1,500 game, which is wild.
Impressive.
His dad Gary Suter played in the league for years. So he just hit 1,500 games, which is pretty impressive. Patrick Marleau, I think, played 1,832. Colin, we talked about that the other night. Like, wrap your head around that. 1,832 games in the NHL, night after night, just grinding, checking, traveling,
Yeah.
everything. Right? That's pretty
How
impressive.
how you're walking is impressive.
Yeah, yeah. So,
So
anyways, we'll have some more updates on the milestones as we go on. Colin, what's next, brother?
the only thing too though isn't what's Ovechkin chasing? Is he what's he?
Oh, yeah, I skipped over that. Everybody talks about that. He's 42 behind Gretzky. Gretzky's 894. I don't think he'll hit it this year. I think
It's
Ovi
gonna
ends
be
up with about
tough.
30, 31 goals. Josh, what do you think? A
It's gonna
number?
be tough. It's gonna be tough. We've seen his decline over the last couple seasons. He just kind of sits there and hangs out at the point and waits for it. Not to say he's not putting in effort and stuff like that, but you've kind of seen him. At least last season, I saw him taper off a little bit.
He lost some of the talent he had with him too, right? It's
I
what
was gonna say the talent around him really has kind of
Yeah,
gone the wrong
deteriorated.
direction as well.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
hey,
You
man, he
look,
got his cup, and that's what he wanted. I mean, he made that
yeah,
clear.
He had Backstrom for there for a good while, who was a great setup man.
Oh, great.
he's still got TJ Oshie, doesn't
Yeah, he's got
he?
TJ
Yeah,
Oshie. Yes, he's got uh, who's the guy that runs around and hits everybody? Gosh,
Tom Wilson.
Oh,
Tom
Tom
Wilson. Like,
Wilson, that
you know,
son of a bitch.
that's not going to get Ovi 42 goals this year. Is hanging out with Tom Wilson. He'll protect them.
I'm pretty
It's
sure
gonna
Tom
get
Wilson has 4 goals this season, though. I'm
He,
pretty sure.
he's taking them away
it's
from Ovechkin.
it's
He
not
has
gonna get
5. He has
Ovechkin
5
40.
goals.
Hey, it ain't gonna get Ovechkin 42 goals. It's gonna get Ovechkin
No.
42 concussions from the other team coming out and hitting
Yeah.
hitting the best player on the ice for that
Yeah,
bullshit.
he lost. Like we said, the Capitals had their run. They won the cup the year before the Blues. Their team was front to back one of the best teams on the ice that year, and they've
And you felt
slowly
like they did it for Ovechkin, and that was awesome.
100%, 100%.
I guess I don't. When we were talking about McDavid, I don't want to see McDavid not get that, what Ovechkin had. You know what I'm saying? Where
Yeah,
he got his cup. You
Yes.
don't want to see these guys that almost for a time define the league, not
Yes.
see success. And
Yes.
it'll be tough to, if we're sitting here in 6, 7 years and McDavid's retiring and he never got to hoist the cup, that'll be a tough pill to swallow, I think. So, like you
yeah.
said, seeing Ovechkin, hoist that cup up, a franchise player like that is nice.
Colin. Yeah, you're right, Josh. And Colin, maybe just to wrap this segment and that topic up, 20 years ago when Gretzky retired, 97, I think he retired 98. So what is that, 27 years ago? I remember telling the guys I work with, there's no one going to beat 894 goals. It's incredible. He was hanging 92 goals a year back in the day, 85 goals, 80 goals a year. For Ovechkin to be what, 30, 39 years old, gray beard and everything, right? To be this close to it with essentially 2 years left in the league, maybe he picks up a 1-year contract after that. It's going to happen. He stays healthy, it will happen. And good for him because that dude is one of the best snipers in the history of the league.
And he's got one Stanley Cup, correct? Just one, right?
Correct.
Yes.
2018.
Is
Yeah.
that? Let me just ask this question: Is that satisfying when you're chasing 894? Is one Stanley Cup? Does he look back? We're talking about all this, and like you're talking, this could be our segment out of this topic. But is he happy with that? You think?
No, the guy wants another cup. I look at that roster right now. Love Chucky Sideburns. They're he's doing an okay job. They brought in Logan Thompson, but you look at the goalie and you work your way back up. I just don't see the talent. They're
It ain't there.
they're also an old team as well, right? So
It's
I don't
it's
think a
not
cup.
there when we talk about the New Jersey Devils, the New York Rangers, the Florida
Correct.
Panthers. It's
Dallas
the Toronto
Stars.
Maple Leafs. I mean, I'm just all the teams that they have to play and go up against in that Eastern. It's just not. It ain't there. It's not close, really. I mean,
Yeah.
just to be blunt about it. But with that being said, Ron, thank you for the milestones. We will keep track of that.
Yeah.
Every episode we come out with, we will give you an update as we go along. But for the best and my favorite part of this episode that we're going to bring on the inaugural show, we are going to dive in now first to our predictions for the Hart, Vezina, and Norris Trophy. So what we're going to do is we're going to take one, we're going to talk about it, we're going to come back, introduce the other one, and introduce the other one, and go from there. Josh, Give me your 2024-2025 Hart Trophy winner.
I picked Kucherov. I think he's off to a hell of a start this season.
He
And
is.
if he keeps this up, I think he's a perfect candidate for it. He has been in the past as well, so
I
All
don't
right.
dislike that pick. That's a good pick.
So Josh is taking Kucherov off the board. And one thing I want to say here is let's all try to be a little different. So if somebody does have yours, throw a curveball and throw a dart and land somebody. Ron, give
Hey,
me your Hart winner.
well, there's the big three: McDavid, Kucherov, McKinnon. It seems like every year those guys are in the conversation, and rightfully so.
Don't you dare snipe mine right here. I'm going to be pissed. Don't you dare
Not
do it.
not not picking any one of the three.
I don't have one of those three either. I don't want to be chalky.
So I had it down to two guys. I love Mikko Rantanen. He's in his prime. He's 28 years old. Off to, again, like Josh said, he's off to a good start as well, which is important when you're racing for 140, points a year or whatever. But and this is kind of the obvious because he's leading the league in points right now. The bread man, Artemi Panarin, absolutely on fire. He's picked up two 100-point seasons the last 2 years. And if you look at that Rangers team, there is a ton of talent on that team, a ton of scoring, and I think the Breadman's gonna be there at the end.
Okay. I hope you boys love this pick. You guys all know I don't like being chalky. You guys all know I like kind of making things interesting and trying to put it in perspective. I'm trying to find really juicy odds for when I go bet this. And I'm going to throw at you Jack Hughes. I'm taking Jack Hughes because we sit here and talk. We've all talked about on this show already how we think the New Jersey Devils are legit. We all think the New Jersey Devils are there down the stretch. That does not happen without Jack Hughes having a spectacular season. He's already got 5 points, 1 goal, 4 assists. That I think the team kind of funnels around him. I know he's young, but hey, man, this could be one of the next great players in the NHL, and I think he's already kind of becoming a staple. He's a guy that's frequently talked about, especially when you talk about the Devils. And yeah, man, I think Jack Hughes truly can go out and win, the Hart, which AKA the MVP of the NHL this season.
What do you think about his health, Colin? Does that concern you a little bit?
Yes, him staying on the ice is of concern.
He's had
It's
some
it,
problems.
it's also, and because he's not the biggest guy on the ice by any stretch of the
No,
imagination. He's kind of a
no.
little fella compared to the rest. But with that being said, I mean, the Devils can't have success without him. If he's shelved, the Devils don't. I mean, they can have some success, but they're not going to make the run that us three might think they're going to make, or other people think they're going to make if he's shelved. So I mean, I'm trying to predict this in the sense of I can't predict injury. So I think, barring health, staying healthy, staying on the ice, this guy I think can win it.
Okay, I like it.
I like it. I think he kind of has health issues like the other Jack in the league, Jack Eichel, where
Yeah,
they kind of go back and forth. Eichel's off to a tremendous start this year as well. So I I like that pick,
Hey,
Collins. It's different, and if he can stay healthy, he'll be I think he'll be a prime candidate.
hey, Jack Eichel stays healthy. His name can be in this conversation too.
It
I
very
would
well could
agree.
be.
Yes.
I would
So
agree.
segmenting out of the Hart, we're going to talk about the Norris Trophy winner, which is the award for the best defenseman in the league. Ron, why don't you go ahead and tell us who you're going to take right here with your Norris Trophy winner?
Well, I was after I heard your heart pick, I'm thinking I wonder if Colin's going to pick Quinn Hughes for this award, and maybe he's going to the Hughes Christmas this year. I don't know. I like.
I was going to until I realized that I had two Hughes wrote down, and I'm not their other brother. So no,
Yeah,
I,
we.
I
I think Josh and I would have said, "Now wait a minute, Colin. What do you got going
Yeah.
with the Hughes family?" No, Quinn Hughes is good. He had a really, really good year last year. I think Rick Tocchet has changed the face of that whole entire franchise when he moved over there. Great player, but Yossi, we talked about him earlier, being on Nashville, the leader of that squad. But I mean, it's Cale Makar. It's Cale Makar. Those are my top three guys. Cale Makar. Cale Makar. He's so incredibly good with what he does. So I know he's in the conversation every year. It's not like I'm going out on a limb there, but I don't see who's going to beat him in that
Hey,
award.
he's got to, we're talking about injuries a little bit. He's got to stay healthy too.
Yes, he does.
He does.
And the Avalanche have really got to turn it around too. I mean, it's obviously early, and I think they do, but I mean,
Oh,
goaltending could be a problem. We've talked about that already.
I will say this. I will say that for Colorado to be in the conversation come Stanley Cup conference finals, because we know how stacked the West is. If they're going to ride him, they're going to ride McKinnon. Maybe they
They
get
have to, yeah.
Landeskog. They have to. Maybe they get Landeskog back. Rantanen, as I mentioned, was one of my picks for Hart. But that whole team revolves around Makar, especially when you look at what's happening in their goal, like we talked about earlier. So he's the best defenseman in the league, in my opinion.
Absolutely. I do agree with that.
I
Josh?
don't think that the McCarr pick is up for debate at all. So I'm going to kind of switch some things up since you picked McCarr and we kind of agreed we weren't all going to pick the same. I kind of was looking at three guys. I was looking at McCarr, obviously, Adam Fox, and then Theodore on Vegas. So Adam Fox has won it in the past, correct?
I think he has one Norris Trophy win. Let me look that up while you
I
talk.
think he has one.
The last three winners is Quinn Hughes, Eric Carlson, Cale Makar. I do know that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you
Keep
take
chatting.
Adam
I'll look
Fox
that up.
right here, I'm going to be a little upset. I'm going to fall out of my chair.
Is that your pick? Your Rangers pick?
That is my pick. Is Adam Fox.
You know what? Then I'll take the long shot and I'll go with Theodore. Shea Theodore.
I love long shots, baby. So, real quick, dude, let's talk about long shots and kind of how we're both kind of thrown off our rocker here since we all kind of had this. And let's be realistic. I think you are right, Josh. I think you are right, Ron. I think this is a two-horse race, maybe three if you expand it to Quinn Hughes, but I do think it's a two-horse race in Cale Makar, Adam Fox. Do you guys have any interest if I told you that Charlie McAvoy was at plus 2,000?
Yes.
I mean, at plus 2,000 on a pretty good team. I mean, that's.
He's their leader. He is their number one defenseman.
I mean,
Got
he's
hit his three
quarterback and
goals.
power play, right?
He had a hell of a season last year too.
Yes, he did. The kid, he's still young. He's probably getting into his prime right about now, 25, 26 years old.
Yes, coming into his own right now at plus
That's not a
2,000, boys.
I don't think that's a stretch. That's pretty good line on that, right?
I mean,
Adam Fox did win the Norris, by the way, in 2021. Colin, if you went back one more year, you'd have found that.
one
But
more
he did
year,
win it in
Adam Fox
21.
would have had it.
Yeah,
I thought he'd won it.
Well, I mean, he's as legit gets at the defenseman position, right there with Cale Makar. I mean, if you want to go watch if you're a young kid or hell, you're just a hockey fan and you want to go watch a defenseman play defensive hockey and be good at what they do, tune in to an Avalanche game to watch Cale Makar. Tune into a Rangers game to watch Adam Fox. They are true difference makers at the defense position. So credit to what those guys do. But look, we're going to go over to the Vesna now. And so I quit selling myself short on my picks here. I'm going to go first this time, gentlemen. And
So
I'm
you
going to
picked
go.
Fox. Wait, you picked Fox?
Yes, Adam Fox.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm keeping tabs. Fellas.
No, that's perfect. Somebody's got to keep tabs so we can circle back and see how we shape up at the end of the year. And when Marty joins us too, we'll get his. We're just going to tell him, hey, man, tough shit. We've already picked our three. You're going to have to go to a fourth and pick a different
That's
one.
right.
But so my Vesna winner this season, and this is where I am going to be chalky, is obviously without discussion. You guys both know where I'm going. Igor Shesterkin is my pick for this award. This to me is I can't say as free and as easy as it gets, but in my eyes, this is as free and as easy as it gets for an award-winning bet. I think he is by far and away the best in the business. And I don't want to discredit Connor Hellebuck. I mean, he won it last year, and that dude is an absolute machine, and Winnipeg's a good team. But I think Igor playing for a contract year was also why I did this. He turns down $88 million. We talked about it earlier. He now has something to prove more than he ever did. We're all shaking our head as to how you turn that money down. We're all talking about how it's some gangster shit to do to turn down a contract like that. I'm in on the Igor train this year to go ahead and win this award. Real quick though, talk about our last three winners were Connor Hellebuck, Linus Ullmark, and Shesterkin. So Ron or Josh, whichever one of you are ready, and both of you, if you guys were intelligent, probably had Igor down. So now that you guys got a curveball coming at you, go ahead and whichever one of you are ready, go ahead and get after it.
Josh, fire away, bud.
Oh man. Well, yeah, I had Shosherkin as well. It was pretty obvious. You know, maybe Connor Hellebuck will get it 2 years in a row.
Oh, I like that.
You
I
know,
don't know when that's been last time that's been done. We'd have to research that. Has someone won? Maybe Vasilevsky did. I would think he'd be the one that would, but
I was gonna say I feel like Vasilevsky probably, if there was one, was probably
that'd be
that
my
guy.
guess. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, also look at what Winnipeg's doing so far this season.
lighten it up.
You
Yes.
know, I
Yes,
mean,
for
so if
sure.
they can keep this kind of groove going throughout the season, I mean, there's no reason why he doesn't get another one.
It real quick, and Ron, you may end up picking this guy. I had somebody else down until today, and I audibled out because of how much I talk about Shesterkin and the Rangers. So I felt like it was only justice for me to award him this award. And this may take your, it may not, but I had Jacob Markstrom down until today. So I'm anxious to see if you had him down. Maybe we have a. I feel like you and I, when we talk about hockey, are very similar on some of these picks. So I'm just
Yeah,
I wanted to throw that out there. That way, I didn't sound like I just said that to say it. But that's who I had till today.
yeah. No, I didn't have him. Josh, it's a good pick by Hellebuck. Again, we need to find out when the last time someone went back to back business. So if you're working on that, just pop in when you get that answer. But no, I obviously I had Shesterkin. Everybody does, guys. As we said, the best goalie in the league. I like the Hellebuck pick as to what Josh said, but my pick is Jake Ottinger. I think this is his year. He's already off to a pretty good start so far. And again, I love everything that Dallas is doing from the net up to the center to the red line. They're just a very, very good all around team with experience and use. So I think this is his year to come in and say, okay, I'm the guy now. Maybe Shesterkin gets lost in the contract thing. Hopefully not. You hate to see something like that interrupt his year, but Jake Ottinger, I looked his stats up. He's given up 5 goals in a game one time in his career, 6 years.
Machine, dude, machine.
The guy's just as rock solid as they come. And I don't know if he's ever been even in the finalist spot over the last few years, but I think this is his year to step up and win that Vezina.
I
What's
like it.
funny about all three of these picks, and maybe this is obvious, but we talk about a team like Colorado. You won't find Georgiev on this list anywhere within the top probably 15.
Nah,
You notice how all three of our goalies are playing for really, really good hockey clubs, and really, really good goaltending is obviously what formulates these really good hockey clubs. Because speaking of the Avs, they have a loaded roster, probably arguably one of the best in the business from top to bottom, offensively and then defenseman standpoint. And because of bad goaltending, they're not in this conversation at all. So, I mean, it's just really, we can have good defensemen and still not have a great team. You could have an MVP caliber player and still not have a great team. You have a Vezina winner on your team. Your team will be in the conversation of being one of the best teams in the league at the end of the season.
yep. And I
So the
think that,
last,
what's that, Josh?
but so the last time somebody won it back to back was Martin Brodeur 07-08, and the person who did it prior to him doing it was also him in 03 and 04. And Dominic
Okay.
Hasek did really well back when the Sabres were a
98,
relevant team.
99 when he went to the Cup Finals, lost to Dallas. Yeah,
Yes.
are you
Yeah.
serious? That hasn't been. It's only been done twice in the last 25 years.
Hmm.
That's
That makes me
surprising.
like the Hellebuck pick a little bit more here.
You know
We're
what?
due, right?
Yeah.
I think Josh is onto something.
We're due. But hey, if I'm
But
putting a long
Colin, you
long shot sprinkled, Markstrom's it for me.
yeah, and to your point, Markstrom. I mean, maybe this is a good segue for us to just dive into our picks because the teams that are going to be there, the Final Four, they have to have goaltending. So why don't we fire into that, Colin?
Absolutely. So we are going to talk about our Eastern and Western Conference picks to play in the Eastern and Western Finals. And then we're going to talk about our Stanley Cup Finals and who we take to win it. So, Josh, real quick, why don't you give me your Eastern Conference Finals matchup?
So in the East, I have got New Jersey going up against Boston. I think New Jersey is proving off to the start at the start of this season that they're a big contender. I actually was contemplating last season putting money on them to win the Stanley Cup. I think they have a really good young team. They're putting things together. Goaltending is pretty much unstoppable, you know. I think they look really good. I've always kind of been a New Jersey fan, a little bit of a fanboy. So I'm really pushing for New Jersey and Boston. Boston, they're starting to age out, get a little bit older, but they're a gritty team and they know how to play playoff hockey. And I
Yes.
really see them going to the Eastern Conference Finals. We'll
They're
see
like
how the rest.
they're like the team that they just don't go away.
They don't go
Like
away. Yeah,
it just
100%. They just don't go away.
like there were a lot of people wrote them off last year, and look what they did in the playoffs. They made it all the way
We
to
all
the
did.
finish and lost.
We all did, right? We all wrote them
When
off.
was the last time Boston wasn't in the playoffs?
Right?
Have
That's
it,
a
when
great
was it?
question.
20 years they've missed the playoffs? Has it been 20
Oh,
years?
at least maybe early 2000s. So yeah, maybe after the strike. So I bet you it's been 20 years. They just
That's
don't go
insane to
away.
me, man. Well, and a guy like Pasta, I mean, you put him at the forefront of any team, and he can help you out, right? I
Yep.
mean,
We'll
they're
see how
absolutely loaded.
we'll see how Swayman does for him this season, but I think
Yeah,
he's just as good as anybody out there.
yeah,
He's
absolutely, man. He's reliable. He's a good option that you can trust down the stretch. I want to talk a bit real quick about that. Your two picks, Josh. We have the New Jersey Devils currently sitting at plus 600 to win the Eastern Conference, and the Boston Bruins sitting at plus 1,000 to win the Eastern Conference. So both of those teams are in what would that be the top 7 to win the Eastern Conference. So like those picks there, Ron. Why don't you go ahead and give me who your Eastern Conference Finals teams are?
Well, I just changed on the fly because I think Josh having New Jersey, I like them. Obviously, we talked about what they did in the offseason. We talked about Markstrom being a key. Consider maybe if he has a great year to be a Vezina finalist, and maybe Jersey makes some noise. But what have we been on the show about 45 minutes, 50 minutes now? We haven't even brought up in any of our segments the Florida Panthers. These guys are the Stanley Cup champs, right? I'm going to change my pick from New Jersey. I'm going to take a New Jersey out, and I'm going to put the Florida Panthers in. This will be the third year in a row that they make it to the Cup. I'm sorry, we're talking Eastern Conference right now, but they will be in the Eastern Conference Finals until somebody dethrones them. They'll be there. And then the Rangers, of course, we've talked about their goalie. We talked about Panarin. I'm high on Panarin this year. He's off to a flying start. They just have a ton of talent, top to bottom. Zibanejad, Kreider, Lafreniere is a former number 1 pick in 2020.
Yep.
He's
Yep.
coming around. We talked about Adam Fox. We didn't talk about the hammer, Jacob Trouba, but the guy, I mean, they're just a good team from Shesterman all the way up to the front, top line. So I'm going to take Florida because someone has to beat them, and I'm going to take the Rangers.
Honestly, man, you hit the nail on the head. We haven't talked about Florida at all. And another team that we haven't talked about at all from the Eastern Conference is the Toronto Maple Leafs. But I'm still not going to pick their ass. I'm going to take the Rangers and I'm going to take the Devils.
Hey,
I got the Rangers Devils Eastern Conference Finals for all reasons we've already discussed.
I know the hockey mecca of the universe, Toronto, won't like this, but I think they've made it out of the first round once or twice in the last 2 decades.
They
I'm not
just
picking them.
there
I
is a
love,
curse there
I
somewhere.
love Burby. I love their top line. They got 4 guys making 50 million plus a year. They're very top heavy. Their defense is awful. They give up more odd man rushes on defense than any team in the league last year. I can't pick them. I just
I
can't.
can't pick them either, and they're actually the plus 450 favorite in the Eastern Conference, and we
Are they
all just,
really?
yeah, and we all
That's
just
crazy.
sat there and watched them sit. But the Rangers are plus 500, Florida Panthers are plus 500, and once again the New Jersey Devils are plus 600. So yes, I will finalize with the Devils Rangers, and we're gonna move on to the Western Conference Finals. I feel like we might get a little bit different here for most of us. I'm gonna go ahead and throw mine out first since I just went last on the Eastern. I'm gonna throw out the Dallas Stars versus the Edmonton Oilers. The Dallas Stars are sitting at plus 370 and Edmonton is sitting at plus 350. Actually, both are the top 2 favorites, so I am chalky there. Never in a million years, the way it sits right now, did I think Edmonton would be the favorite to win the Western Conference. So I really kind of thought I'd go against the grain a little bit on that, and I guess I'm not. But yeah, man, for all reasons we talked about the Dallas Stars, man. Ottinger, we named the whole lineup earlier. We don't need to do it again. I think they are the most complete team in hockey. Personally, I really do, top to bottom. I think they're it. They call me Slippery Pete, so I mean, I'm all in on this Dallas Stars team. But hey, I'm gonna go back with Edmonton. We talked a little earlier. We seemed almost a little negative about what Edmonton has going on. And I don't want to seem that way because, man, anytime you can talk about Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl in the same sentence and they're on the same team, on the same line, and can really get things going down the stretch, and they can really rally a team from, a bad start like they're on right now. I mean, you pair that with, you got Zach Hyman, Matthias Ekholm. I mean, they are a really good team, man. Darnell Nurse is still there. I know he's getting up there. Evan Bouchard. You talked about Victor Arvidsson coming in. I mean, this is a really good team, fellas. Like they just have to have Stuart Skinner be average.
Yes.
Just be
Yes.
average at best. Be average, and you can make a push with this team yet again. I think they do it. We talked earlier also about how the McDavid video of the Edmonton team after they got beat in the locker room pulls on your heartstrings a little bit because that guy really truly showed in that video that he gave it everything he had. So I'm going Edmonton, Dallas Stars, Western Conference Finals. You can go ahead and book it.
Nice. Well done. Well
Ron,
done.
go ahead and tell me yours. We'll go reverse order this time.
I think Hellebuck's going to bring Winnipeg through that Western Conference with some of the issues we talked about with Colorado's goaltending. They have a very good team. They got some young talent on that team. Kyle Connor, Josh Morrissey's a solid defenseman. I think they're going to ride Hellebuck again, and that's why I didn't hate Josh's pick with him being the Vezina winner. And then the other team, and I'm going to pull this out of the archives, Colin. You're going to love this. My Dallas Stars.
Nice.
How about that? That is from 2000.
That's
Dallas
from when they beat Buffalo, right?
When they beat Buffalo, I moved down there. I was living in Dallas at the time. Actually, I moved that summer. They are absolutely loaded from top to bottom. Yeah, they lost to Ryan Suter. They lost Foxa. They are a very good mixture of young and old. I think you mentioned Jamie Benn, Tyler Seguin, but you look at Stan Cove and Colin, you love Wyatt Johnson. I mean, this kid is dynamite. Great defenseman.
Jason Robertson.
We didn't even mention him. And this guy
was
was
Hintz.
100-point guy a few years ago. Rupi Hentz is solid. Essa Lindell, Hiskinen, they just are a very good team, very well coached team. And if I think Ottinger's going to win the Vezina, I think they're going to ride to the Western Conference Finals on his back.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, for all things, I totally agree. Josh, do you have somebody other than Dallas for us here?
No, I do not. I think we are all kind of riding the Dallas train. But I do have them going up against Vegas. I really like Vegas. I've always, since they came into the league, I think they kind of have one of the sexiest uniforms in the league. Those gold helmets just kind of do something to me. They get me fired up. So I'm always rooting for Vegas. They obviously have the talent on their team. You got Mark Stone. If Jack Eichel can stay healthy all year, he's a top player in the league. In Barbashev's, it seems to me like he's getting better and better every year. I do think
coming into his own there.
Yeah, I do worry about their goaltending a little bit going forward. Samsonov and Hill. I don't know. The season will show.
They just have to piggyback really well together. Vegas is going to have to be a team that when Aiden Hill gets hot, Aiden Hill's starting. For games on it. When Samsonov gets hot, Samsonov starting for games on it. They have to ride the wave with those goaltenders. And if they do it and they coach it correctly, I think it could be a recipe for success because it's a long season, man. Those goaltenders do wear down. So, I mean, there could be a recipe for success if coached correctly on that.
And even with my Norris pick, I picked Theodore as kind of a wild card. He's very talented on the defense. And you even have Pietrangelo there too.
Yeah,
he had a rough season last year. He was injured a little bit. I think he was dealing with some personal problems as well. But the season prior to that, I mean, the guy's a monster out there. He's everything that, as a St. Louis fan, we miss on our defense. The way he can command the ice, the way he uses his body, the way he plays his defense, and he's a sniper. You put him on the blue line and let him rip. I mean, the guy's unstoppable out there when he's having a good season and he's staying healthy. So,
well, he certainly made Colton Parayko look like an all-star back in the day. So you're spot on with that, Josh.
He got Parayko paid.
Yeah, he makes people around him better by the way he plays the game. 100%.
I really
So
have a
that
hard time saying like having him and Pareko in the same conversation though.
you can't.
I really
Yeah, you
do.
can't. You're right. Good save on that. But to talk about those real quick, since we were a little bit different, Vegas is currently sitting at plus 900. And Ron, the Winnipeg Jets pick, I do like that a lot, especially with the Hellebuck. Man, you may want to go across the river and sprinkle this on DraftKings. They're sitting at plus 1100
to
in
win the
the
West.
to win the West. I mean, that's juicy. Anything you can get juicy like that, then you're a believer. I like that kind of shit. So now we're going to talk who wins the Western Conference Finals and who wins the Eastern Conference Finals for us. Josh, give me your Stanley Cup final matchup and give me your winner.
So I've got New Jersey Devils versus Dallas Stars, and I'm gonna go with New Jersey winning it all. Like I
Wow.
said, I'm a New
I like
Jersey
that. If that
fan.
happens, Jack Hughes is winning the heart.
Yeah.
Yep. And Markstrom's
Um,
going to be in the Vezina conversation, 100%.
yeah, they have to keep those guys healthy. Like right now, I think they're leading the league in goals scored. I think they have like 27 goals. If they can keep this going and stay hot, I said earlier, January and February can be a tough time in the season. Things start to lull. Guys are getting tired. They're getting worn out. They're getting injured, or they're coming back from injuries. If they can kind of keep this going all season long, I mean, I'm rooting for them all the way. Obviously, I'm rooting for the Blues more, but when I see a New Jersey win, I'm standing up and clapping. So,
Absolutely. And well, we know the Blues can't do it. So
and maybe my New Jersey fandom kind of comes from, back when my younger years watching Martin Brodeur play and, all the talent they had on the team back then. And maybe that's where some of it kind of stems from because I've always rooted for them. So this is kind of
so the
a fan pick for me.
so the Devils are sitting at plus 1200 to be the
Hey,
NHL champion.
I'll come pick you up, Josh. We can go together. Place
All
those two.
right. All right.
Because
Yeah.
absolutely, because the Devils are currently sitting tied for sixth with the sixth best odds. So that's a completely fair pick right there. Ron, why don't you go ahead and tell me your Stanley Cup Finals and your Stanley Cup champion?
Well, you saw the jersey. Dallas, I think, will come out of the West. They were there in 2020. They almost got past Edmonton last year. I think this is the year that they make it to the Cup. And again, I talked about Ottinger. He'll be the key, and just everybody in front of him will feed off that. They just have a very well-rounded, balanced team. And I think they're going to end up facing the New York Rangers. And I say that because I know I talked a little bit about Igor earlier. He gets that resolved. I don't see, and I think the Rangers are going to end up winning a cup for the first time in 30 years. So they're just too good of a team. If Igor can keep his head on straight and not let the contract distract him, I think Panarin, as I talked about, as my Hart Trophy winner, and all the supporting cast they have there, I think a New York Dallas Stanley Cup final would be great for the league. And I think this is the year the Rangers finally pull it off.
So you know what's crazy about this? Well, first, real quick, the Rangers are plus 1,000, the fourth best odds to win the NHL Stanley Cup. And what's crazy about this is none of us have talked about our picks for the finals, for the conference finals, for the awards until right now. I mean, you guys are seeing it as you guys are watching us right now is when we were discussing it for the first time. And what's wild about this is I as well have the Dallas Stars versus the New York Rangers in the Stanley Cup finals. And to make sure we're different, I'm gonna take the Dallas Stars. I'm gonna go with your Vezina winner, and you're gonna go with my Vezina winner, and we're gonna do a flip flop here. But like we said, for all reasons the same, no need to harp on this. These teams are, in my opinion, two of the best in the business. So I'm not going to dive into that too much more, but I will submit it. Dallas Stars Stanley Cup champions right here is my pick. Let me ask you guys a question. Who do you guys think are the top two favorites to win the Stanley Cup? I'm telling you right now, I would not have got this right. No way I would have got this right. Nope.
Really?
Are you
I would have
saying
swung
like
and missed at this at 6 times.
from a betting line?
Yes,
Who's the
from
favorite?
from odds on betting right now, who are the top two teams to win the Stanley Cup?
Oilers?
They are number one. I would have swung and missed at that.
I would have
Toronto.
too.
And Toronto's number two. I would have swung and missed at both of those teams many a times right now.
All Canadian Stanley Cup final is what Vegas is predicting, huh?
Yeah, I think they
There's
need to
no
go look at
way.
look and see that Winnipeg and Calgary are the two best hockey teams in Canada this year so
Yeah,
far.
don't tell them
You
that.
know,
Yeah,
yeah,
don't tell them that.
Jonathan Huberdeau actually woke up and played hockey this season so far.
Yep,
So
he resurfaced, didn't he? Wow,
Nice.
that
yeah,
was a shame.
That's another thing we didn't talk about so far. You talk
he
about
must
a
have a
guy that
body double
resurrected.
out there. Yeah,
What was that WWE fighter that gift goes around? You see him come up out of the coffin. That was Hoover. That
the
gift is for
Undertaker.
Huberdeau. The
Yeah,
Undertaker. Huberdeau is the Undertaker this season. He is resurrected.
I
But
I think in fantasy I traded him off like week 3. I was just like, I'm done. I was
Well,
like,
when
I'm done with
Markstrom
this
left,
guy. Yeah,
they
and
were shot.
they weren't good last year. You know, from the year where they had Johnny Hockey and Matthew Tkachuk and Lindholm on that line, I think they all three scored 100 points that year, which is
Real
mind-boggling.
quick, real quick, Ronnie. Rest in peace, Johnny Hockey. That's still
Yeah, we
to this
probably should have
day,
started
man.
the show with that instead of ended, huh?
Yeah, we just ended on a morbid
Sad.
note, but man, rest in peace, Johnny Hockey. He was a legend around these streets and the hockey world. That's a sad thing to see, man. It's a crazy world out there. We don't want to spend too much time on the morbid stuff here. We try to end on high notes, but yeah, rest in peace, Johnny Hockey, and prayers up for his family. And
Yeah,
yeah,
his
it's
brother
just
Matt
crazy, man.
as well. Yeah.
It's crazy how this happens, man. But yeah, so fellas, this was awesome, man. This was extremely fun. We just dove deep into some hockey, man, and I'm all about it. I love all of our picks. If we're looking to add Marty down the line, you've seen Marty on the Splash and Go podcast. So we'll be running 4 deep here most of the time on the hockey show. We're going to try to come at you guys once a week. It may end up being once every 2 weeks. We are all four extremely busy fellas. Ron travels for work, so getting him on here is gonna be tough at times, but we're gonna give you the most reliable content that we can give you and the most consistent content we can give you. And we will try to make this once a week for sure. This is tons of fun. These guys are awesome. Fellas, if you have anything else you want to add real quick, now's the time. Otherwise, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up and get out of here.
No, good stuff. Thanks for having me, guys. Enjoyed it. Looking forward to the next episode.
yeah, this was awesome. I think we covered everything crease to crease. So
Crease to
like
Crease, baby. That is it right here. Deep Threat Sports Network, Crease to Crease podcast right here. Coming at you on our inaugural show with Josh, Ron. I'm Colin, your host. Hey, fellas, this was tons of fun. Look to do it again next week. But hey, until next time, fellas, peace.
See you.